Here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, as the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. We're going through some horror stories in real estate, things that I've experienced, scams that you need to be aware of, some kind of funny but somewhat scary stories as it relates to real estate, all of which designed to just help you better understand the process. As always, if you've listened to the show in the past, you know that I provide relevant information about what's happening in our market, what's happening with the process of buying, selling, and investing in real estate, so that you become a more informed consumer and are better prepared when it comes time to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. And if that's something I can help you with, of course, we sell real estate on a daily basis. This is just my fun little side gig on the weekends. But if you'd like to reach out to me, my number is 843-400-8009. That's my cell phone, 843-400-8009. You can go online and learn more about myself and my team and who we are and what we do and what we sell, all that great stuff. Listingsincharleston.com is the website, listingsincharleston.com. And lastly, you can send me an email, brian@brianbeattyteam.com. And of course, I am joined this morning by my co-host for the day, Mr. Samuel O'Neill, my director of marketing.
Hello, Charleston. Thanks for having me, Brian.
And so I want to continue this kind of just chain of somewhat random but relevant stories and horror stories in real estate. And I want to tell you about one that I had happen to me. This was several years ago. This was actually back in 2011. I acquired a triplex, and this is just a sign of the times. In 2011, I bought a triplex in West Ashley for $60,000, and it needed some work. So I think I put about $30,000 into it, and then over time I put in another 10. So I had $100,000 invested. It was renting for $2,400 a month. Awesome return, super awesome return on that property. But here we are. It's coming to the tail end of the renovation, really just on the punch list, some touch-up paint here and there, tighten a screw, flip a few switches, and we're golden. We're going to get tenants in there. The day before we're scheduled to take photos to put the property on the rental market, I get a call from the fire department, and they say that my property is on fire. And I just, I couldn't believe it. I'd flipped multiple homes. I still continue to flip multiple homes. It's something that I do on the side and something that I help people through when they want to get into investment properties. And so here we are, and I get to the property. Obviously, the fire had been put out, but there is literally a hole in the side of one of the units. And I was like, what in the world's going on? I bought it as a foreclosure. And as such, I had all of the doors and windows secured so that none of the workers' tools were taken and nothing was stolen out of the property. Well, one of the doors in the back was barred closed by a 2x4 on the inside, and so they literally cut a hole in the side of the house to get in to make sure there was no one inside. It was what they had to do. And I think that the total damage came out to like $4,800. Guess what my deductible was?
Let's see. What would make sense here for the sake of the story? How about $5,000?
Correct. $5,000 in order to claim all of that on my insurance. Well, I had to come out of pocket an extra $4,800. It's just totally unfortunate. But the reason I tell you that is because, when we talk about real estate, and it goes so much further than just helping people buy and sell and negotiating a good deal. There are so many different factors and facets that go into an overall world-class experience. Insurance is one of them. And insurance is incredibly important. I mean, think about the number of times we've probably asked ourselves, oh my gosh, where is my insurance policy? Because we've got a hurricane coming. I don't know how much I'm covered for. I don't know what my replacement value is. Shoot, I just realized I haven't updated my replacement value in like 8 years, and I just spent $100,000 renovating the property. People go through all these things, and what I find to be true more often than not is that people always want the lowest cost, whatever it is, when they're shopping for services. I want the least expensive insurance. I want the lowest commission, but there's always the question of value, right? Mm-hmm. And so the reason I tell you that story is because you need to really have a good insurance agent explain to you what you're covered for, how much that coverage costs, and what your deductibles are and how that factors into your monthly or annual payment. Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest, the lowest payment isn't always the best option. In fact, in most cases, it's not. It has to be on a case-by-case basis based on your financial wherewithal and what you have into that property. So it's really important there that when we're talking about things like repairs, you need to know what that replacement value is, what the deductible is, so that you're not caught in a situation where you're like, oh gosh, wait a minute. My deductible is, $10,000. There's no way I have an extra $10,000, but it saved you $50 a month on your insurance policy or something like that.
Right.
So you have to be careful there. And I will say that I'm very proud of the team that I've assembled in all facets of the real estate transaction, whether it be mortgage or closing attorney or insurance agent, inspectors, termite inspectors, appraisers. I mean, all of the people that we've spent over a decade vetting and making sure that they are the best of the best are what I think cumulatively provide a fantastic experience for our clients. And I am very proud of that. And I won't shy away from that. But I want to switch gears and talk about another story. And unfortunately, this happens more than I'd like to admit. Because let's be honest, there are jerks out there. There are people that are just straight up jerks. Mm-hmm. And they're going to take advantage of you. They're going to take advantage of situations. Most of the time, they're on the other side of the table. We don't represent them. Every once in a while, we represent a jerk. We didn't know it.
I know what the story is. I know what's coming here, and this is mind-boggling to me. I mean, when I first heard this, I couldn't believe it.
I don't know if this is going to be the story that you're thinking of or not, because unfortunately, there have been more than one jerk that we've had to deal with.
Unfortunately, yeah.
So here we are. This couple is selling their home in Mount Pleasant, and to date, things have gone somewhat smoothly, but we're a few days before closing. There were some repairs that need to be made, and we are doing the walkthrough post-repairs just a few days before closing. And this buyer is walking through the property, and they're pointing out this and that and the other. And they come up with a whole new list of things that they now want fixed that were in the inspection report, but that they did not request to be repaired by the seller. On top of that, they go into the kitchen and they're looking at, how in some kitchens the granite has a seam, and that seam usually lines up in the back part of the faucet, right where the middle of the sink.
Yeah.
Which I personally don't like because it just creates problems. But in that seam, there was a nick in the granite. And I have to tell you, folks, this nick in the granite was probably no bigger than a pencil eraser. And it had been there the entirety of the home being on the market. They just didn't look for it. And so this sweet old couple that I'm representing, we have done a great job in selling their house. We have sold it for full appraised value. The market was not incredibly strong at that time. They were previously listed with someone else for, I think, a year. And so here we are. We're a few days before closing, and this buyer submits a list that was about $10,000 worth of stuff that they wanted fixed in the house. Sellers have already moved out. They are, retirement age. They're ready to move on. And so here this buyer is saying, well, no, we want all these things fixed or we're not going to close. And you've already moved, and we know that. So, we're going to be jerks about it, is basically what they did. And so I inserted myself into the situation, and I met the buyer and their agent at the property. And this whole time, you could see this buyer agent just kind of ducking her tail between her legs because she was so embarrassed at what this buyer was doing, totally taking advantage of my sellers.
Yeah.
But my sellers were frankly not in a position to just say, you know what? No, we're not going to do any of this stuff. You can either close or not close, but we're not doing a thing, which is what I would have suggested in most situations. In this situation, however, as unfortunate as it is, the sellers conceded. They ended up giving this buyer $6,000 worth of stuff, totally unnecessarily, without any sort of validity, but because they just wanted to get the deal done. And they didn't want to run the risk of going back on the market and potentially accepting less because we had sold it for full market value. And I think the buyers were just upset that they didn't get a better deal.
Right.
Maybe they knew this all along. Maybe that was their plan. was to intentionally pay a good price and then try and rake the seller over the coals at the very end. But I will never forget standing in that kitchen while this buyer pulls out a measuring tape and starts measuring countertops for the new granite countertops he's going to be able to put in his kitchen. And I'm looking at him, and my eyes must have been red with anger. I didn't say anything, but he and I exchanged glances, and he took his measurements, and then he said, okay, thank you, and he left, because I think he was at the point where he felt so uncomfortable that he just needed to leave.
Yeah.
But it was a really unfortunate situation. And here's the deal, guys. There are going to be plenty of times where one party tries to take advantage of the other. I'm all for it if it's not unethical and if it's not breaking any sort of contract. Like, obviously, I'm not in favor of somebody, intentionally trying to harm another party to the transaction or use, some sort of vague reasoning to rake a seller or a buyer over the coals. Obviously, not cool with that. But the point of the story is that sometimes, and I hate to even say this on the radio, but sometimes you just have to lick your wounds and move on.
Mm-hmm.
That it takes a lot of maturity to do. It's incredibly challenging. I mean, I have another story that I'll share when we take another break, but I've had to make those own decisions on real estate that I've bought and sold. In the grand scheme of things, it's a story to tell. Did it really negatively impact my life? No, the benefits outweighed, all the stuff that I had to go through to get to that point to close on the property. And that's what I think a really good relationship with a real estate agent is the ability to have a very straightforward conversation where they know that I am acting in their best interests, and I know that what I am suggesting is ultimately what's best for that situation. And this, again, it's hard to say, but you can't always win, I guess is the point.
Yeah. And
so, I know that people, you don't want to hear that from a real estate agent. You want to hear, hey, I'm the best. Whenever something gets tough, whenever tough gets going, I can't say that saying right now. But the point is, you have to analyze each deal, each situation. You have to weigh the pros and the cons. And every once in a while, you have to understand that although you might not be winning in the short term in that particular round, because negotiating real estate is like a boxing match. There's several rounds, right? It's not just a free-for-all, fight to the death. Mm-hmm. So you might have won the price war, but maybe you lost the repairs war. But is that okay with you? For a lot of people, yeah, it is. But I guess the point in saying all of that is that when you hire a real estate agent, make sure that you can trust them. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I've had conversations with buyers and sellers where they've just said, Brian, what should we do? That is the best question I can be asked. It's the most humbling question because it tells me that they trust me and they know that I'm going to take care of them. They might not always like what I have to say, but they understand why I'm saying it. And that's all I ask, is that I be given the ability to tell my clients the truth without them thinking in the back of their mind, well, he just wants the commission. Because when we sell enough real estate, the commission obviously is what pays the bills and feeds my family and allows us to live our lives. But I'm not commission driven. I am relationship driven. I'm customer service driven.
Yeah, I mean, I remember before I worked in real estate, I would see the billboards. I used to live in Atlanta. I run Atlanta, saying, "Hey, if I don't sell your house, I'll buy it," or so on and so forth. And I always thought, that's amazing. This sounds great, almost too good to be true. And now that I've been in the industry, I value truthfulness and integrity and honesty above all of that stuff, and I would be willing to pay more for a service like that. Not that we charge more; we serve everybody the exact same way for the exact same price. It's just that the truthfulness aspect of real estate agents is something that can't have a price tag on it. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I mean the hardest thing to build and the quickest thing to go away is your reputation.
Right. Absolutely.
So. We got a little bit more to share when the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues right here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com. And remember, if you want to reach out to me to talk about helping you with your real estate needs, my number is 843-400-8009. That's 843-400-8009. Or visit us online at listingsincharleston.com.
Hear the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show every Saturday morning at 9 and each Sunday morning at 10 on 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.